up another slide that we have, because what happens here is that people react in a different way to havoc, right? And to all this state of like loneliness and uncertainty. So, you know, this happens always like when you are going through the loss of a relative or a loved one. When you start with a disruptive event, and then a denial, resistance, catharsis, and then you go beyond that point, beyond that line, and eventually start to reactivate yourself. And that's what we all want from the economy. Obviously, governments are doing something quite different, and we're trying to do that. But the interesting thing here is that what triggers that reaction, or how do you reactivate yourself into economy? There's two different things. One is that fear is in everyone's mind. But that fear for some is like freezing yourself, like not doing anything, cutting jobs, and trying to just step backwards. But for other people, it's like trying to make them react in the middle of an emergency. And it all comes down to the mentality and the mindset of people. But the point here is that what explains all these diversities and opposites is the mindset, how people react or respond, as we say, to that crisis. How do you feel about that, Bob, now that you've been studying that along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the primary, for lack of a better word, the primary thrust of my work is really around, sort of mindset, both individual and group. And I've been revisiting some work recently of, Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, and Built to Last. And one of the things he describes is this idea of like, I can't remember what he calls it. Doom loop is the one where bad decisions kind of feed on bad decisions and people spiral down. And then I can't remember the other one, sort of a virtuous cycle where what's that?
Wheel, right?
The flywheel effect. Yeah, the flywheel. Yeah, and I was actually rethinking too. Also, I don't know if you all are science fiction fans, but there's a new movie coming out of the book of Frank Herbert's book Dune, which is one of my favorite books. And in it was a line that really struck me even when I first read it in high school, 40 years ago now, but is that fear is the mind killer, right? And I also think of fear as kind of the team killer as well, right? That when we are trying to, because what companies need, I think is, and I've actually seen so many wonderful examples of it in small businesses, even in my own neighborhood here, that you can get that stress can make you very, very creative, right? It can help you make better decisions, and it can force you to get back to that word that you pulled out, Luis, essential, right? Like, what is essential? Like fear, I think, like anything, when you get too much of it, right, it overwhelms your system. It can overwhelm things. But if you have a little bit of it, or if you stay focused on it, you can become sharper. And I know for myself, I run a very small business. It's my wife and myself. We're a two-person business here. That this crisis has really pushed me. I feel like I'm operating better than I ever have in many ways. Revenue is down certainly, right, and things are difficult, but mentally and relationally, we're really on top of things. And I think the challenge is, I think, for each of us is to, how do we use this crisis, for that?
At the same time, this fear, like you said, is giving us the opportunity to understand the power that technology can give businesses if we really take it to the next level. I don't know, Nydia, you coming from a big network that it's connected around the world at the same time, because banking, it's not only local, right? You have to stay on top of every conversation. How are you feeling this breakthrough? Because people, I just read that, like, in Mexico, we have advanced 10 years in the use of technology. What are you experiencing right now as part of a big company?
Uncertainty and fear obviously impose a tremendous pressure on people, on individuals, on firms, on societies in general. But they are also the source, as Luis and you were saying, they can also be the source of creativity and of reflection on what is really, as Luis put it, essential, and what we could get rid of. one of the most impacted sectors of humanity these days will indeed be labor market. All of those different areas of risk that we are now becoming aware of are also, I believe, the sources of the opportunities that we will be that we will have in front of us. Either they are there for us either to take them and grab them in the air, or look at them and see them pass, never to come back again. No, this is going to be a very complicated time to identify those opportunities. But if we look at this is where the micro and the micro economies come together. I think if we look at the figures being generated by the world, which like never before is ready to cooperate and to exchange information and to exchange experiences and to try and figure it out together. No, if we look carefully at all the information that is being generated by the world in terms of policy, in terms of creativity, in terms of opportunities, I think that this is the time really to grasp the sense of the future, the way the future will look like for individuals and families, as well as for enterprises and governments and really civilization as a whole. We should be getting ready and prepared and strengthening our capacities to be able to take those opportunities up.
It's easy to find the opportunity size, but millions of people, they are not on the opportunity size, they are in the problem size. So right. That we need to do as people who has, so we have great education, we have great opportunities. That we need to do is how to improve the people. So how can we develop new solutions for the people that they are not on the opportunity size? They are on the problem size, because most of the people in Mexico, they don't have a solution. They don't have an opportunity size. Because I think that at the end, if we are only focused on the opportunity size, we are not going to improve the quality of life of the most of the people.
I just remember a quote. I really don't remember the author, but I remember a quote that you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of others. But that requires a lot of responsiveness. And I wanted to center a little bit the conversation around that, because in order to understand those opportunities, you have to have the responsive OS system, if we can call it that, in order to approach them, not only as an organization, but as an understanding of the team that it's going to build those solutions and the way that organizations are creating products. And I wanted to talk with my partner a little bit of this, because what's your point of view, Luis, of the way we are seeing these solutions that have this OS system in their building of the company, and that can create opportunities not only in Mexico, but in other countries, just like Vicente said, focusing in the people that are not in the great side.
Because you have to do three things. First, you have to read the market so that you can move advance, so you can anticipate what people will be needing, your market will be needing. In the case of Vicente, what the bottom part of the pyramid will be requiring in the future. And for that, you have to look at three different segments or three different main spots. One has to do with government, because undoubtedly the government will have to be yielding some opportunities regardless of what we think, as Nydia was saying, or are going to be creating some pitfalls for us just to go around. On the second hand, you have another hotspot, which is all the corporations, because thankfully corporations and private organizations are taking the future of Mexico in their hands only for survival purposes. So they want to just grow and take advantage of the situation. And what they're creating are a lot of opportunities, and they're changing the game. All the M&As that are happening right now are creating new opportunities for us in the market that fortunately are helping us just to go around what the government is doing. Well, I was saying that the first hotspot is people. What people are needing in terms of the emotional needs, because everyone is feeling fear and uncertainty, and that's making them just take different decisions that they wouldn't take in a situation like this, or a different situation. But also what decisions are making in a financial way. What are the different habits that they're acquiring and the ones that are not acquiring? How do you feel, Bob, about those three hotspots? Because the first thing to do when you're falling is to know where the north and the south is. And the second one is just starting to make decisions one step at a time. How do you feel about when you want to become a responsive organization?
But the idea is that that disruptive times, not only are we resilient, not only do we bounce back, but we can actually gain strength from disruptive times, right? And so I think about that both in the micro and the macro, like how do we design an economic system? Because, basically all of the data says that with global warming, with sort of climate change, that we could expect pandemics happening more regularly, right? We're going to be discovering more pathogens on a more regular basis. There's going to be more disruption, coming our way. But when you talk about people, I really do believe, and I think this is one of the gifts personally that I've received from the pandemic, is that I feel closer to the people in my neighborhood. I live in New York City, where people, we pass each other without saying hello a lot, right? Where it can be a friendly city in a crisis. I think maybe what you're saying with people, I see the same dynamic with companies, that it really comes down to how do we create the, kind of cultures of mutual support and teamwork. And it doesn't mean that we have to be we have to be friends or we have to be family or anything like that, or really in each other's lives. But it is about caring about each other as humans, as individuals. So when I think about community, and when I think about company, and when I think about, when I think about organizations, I'm really thinking more about how can we create this sense of mutual care, mutual responsibility, and mutual interdependence. But of course, that's entirely in contrast with what I said earlier about laying people off very quickly when times hit, right? And so I think then it depends upon the kind of, government and financial systems that we sit inside of, because all systems are nested inside of other systems. And so I'm speaking to an ideal.
I don't know, Karen, if as a fellow millennial, you had any thoughts around this, and also as a strategist.
I don't know, it's really interesting just to try to come together the two ideas, the point of view from Vicente, who has the other side and the other part of the bigger reality about Mexicans and the day-to-day and what they really have to go out to the streets and just to be able to survive, because that's the word. It's just how do we survive against this ideal that Bob was mentioning, right? It's just how can we take care of each other? And I think, I don't know about the projects itself, but it's just a big lesson and a way to come back to basics in one way. It's just what if we just turn and look to the community, which is, if we think about it, is just at what point did we just lose this kind of sensibility around humanity? And when we think about that in organizations and in business models and in the way we interact with each other and with the businesses itself, it's just how can we recreate that and go back to basics? How can we really how can we change our mindset and go from how can we help each other? Because as you mentioned, it doesn't have to come, the conversation shouldn't be around what generation you are, what type of economical possibilities do you have. It should be about how can we help each other, no matter what. And the sad thing and good thing about this is just in pandemic moments, we really are forced to move towards that mindset. How can we help each other? How can we force ourselves to just go and stop buying from Amazon and go to the local bookstore? Or how can we just change our daily habits that we used to have, right? And just come back. And I think in that way, we can just force ourselves to go back to that mindset and start and innovate from all perspectives.